welcome to the stream. I am still figuring out, welcome to the stream. I'm still figuring out how all of this works, so bear with me while I try to figure out where the comments section on Twitter is. If you have any ideas, let me know, because I am confused by the broadcast settings. I think it's just the normal comment section on the regular area of the post, but I'm not sure. I'm still using Restream, so let me see. Let's see. Not Twitter. It doesn't really say, but there must be some kind of way to do that. I am also doing this over YouTube, so it might just be easier to go to there if this doesn't work properly. But, welcome. I'm gonna see what I can do to figure this out. It looks like for me to do this, I have to use the Twitter app, so let's see what I can do here. Almost done installing. Hopefully I can get this to work. If not, I'll have to find another solution. See if I can see it from my new thing. I can't seem to. I need to plug my phone in. There must be a way to do it, because I can't see why you'd have an application and not have some kind of chat room box. All I'm getting is like looks like a black screen. Is that what is coming up for on you guys this side? Hey, how you doing, Slendy? Let's see. Yeah, welcome to the viewer over on Twitter. I have zero idea how that works, so you're gonna have to bear with me. I'm doing okay, Slendy. They are over on my YouTube. I am stuttering like crazy. Let's see. We're just reviewing a kind of short animatic that I'm working on right now. It's pretty close to done. I got 4 more frames to do, I would say, and then I will be finished. You know, I still don't understand why Twitter doesn't have like a. There must be a proper chat box in here, but I don't see one. Mind baffling. I have no idea how to work this. I guess I'll figure it out. Lord save the day that I actually understand how to do this. So, the current stage I have... Where is he? I have pretty much done everything I can for this. I am on... There are 2 more sections I have to do. And then I think I should be good to do commissions. Hey, welcome to the other viewer who's joining us. I don't know currently if the Twitter side is working. You're gonna have to bear with me. Because heaven knows I know how to work this. Let's see if I can figure it out. I see that you guys are interested in chatting. I just don't know how to handle that. Let's see here. I should have maybe done it over Twitch, but you know, I haven't been hearing good things about Twitch lately, so it makes me hesitate just a smidge. Is the background sound causing too many clicks? Oh, yeah, sure. How about now? Can you hear me any better? Is this any better? See if it's capturing the Yeti correctly at all. Yeti Nano. How about now? I'm hoping I'm not going too loud here. Perfect. So I'm just finishing up some sketches on this end. Shouldn't take me too long, as long as I do it correctly. As long as the character vaguely resembles what it's supposed to, it's usually not considered a bad drawing, so I think this is going quite well. But Drip's profile is the most difficult thing about him to draw, so we'll see how this goes. The nice thing about Drips is I can actually squash and stretch him, and it's not too big of a deal if I do. So that's kind of what I'm aiming to do here. Although his leg is a little short, and that's okay. This whole thing has taken me maybe 3 days, I would say. It runs at, before I do my editing, it runs at about, I would say like maybe 8 seconds, and that's fine because it's not a full animation either. I'm just boarding because I want something new to add to my demo reel that isn't like related to horses. So if I keep adding pony related stuff, then everybody's just gonna think that I'm a fan artist, and that isn't the case, and I will suffer. Because it's either this or we deal with, like, and I'll show you in a second what my current demo reel looks like before adding this in. Well, he's partially added in, but he's not, like fully added in yet. But I'll show you the current status of my demo reel to kind of give you an idea of how I got the job that I did and kind of what it looks like. But I'm going to warn you, like, I'm still relatively new to the industry. It by no means looks super duper or anything, because it's a little out of date now. But one of the best pieces of advice one of my teachers gave me was, like, literally stop thinking about your demo reel the moment you submit your first one, because you're probably never going to get the chance to update it. So when I'm off, I try to update it, but normally I just try not to think about the fact that the demo was very rough, because I'm a board artist, and that's okay. It's okay that my demo doesn't look sparkly, squeaky clean. Sorry, am I too close to the microphone? Because I'm not sure. My microphone level says that it's high, and I'm not sure if it is. Well, there's some minor inconsistencies with the shape, but I mean, That's the revisionist job, not mine. I'm doing a demo. Okay, good. I don't know about the Twitter side. I haven't glanced over there, but I'm sure they'll make themselves known if there's an issue. Now you might notice that his leg is a little further back on the one side than the other, and that's okay because that's intentional. I'm just trying to make sure, because if I'm gonna have him step forward, I want to indicate that it's intentional. So let's just, otherwise the person who's going to animate this won't know that this is an intentional movement. And you're welcome to ask me, like, questions that I can answer, too. Because, like I said, I'm just young. There's not a ton I can really talk about. But, like, that's just from the perspective of, like, I don't know the full ins and outs yet. But I'll talk about what I can. Like the fact that he's missing his tail here. You might be noticing the scratchy nature of how I draw. It's because I have to pump about 25 panels out a day. Like, minimally. And that equates to typically between 30 seconds and a minute of footage, depending on the length. And I have to go into Premiere and do all this editing to it, because sometimes I forget to do it in the program that I'm actually supposed to use. Because we all have our program habits, the programs we just really like to use. For me, it's Photoshop. I've been using Photoshop since I was, I'd say like mid-high school. So going on like almost 8 years of exclusively me animating in Photoshop and not knowing really, or not, I wouldn't say not knowing other methods, because I was trained in Two Moon Harmony and Maya, but like personally I prefer Photoshop over a lot of other programs. It's pricey, but you know, like for what I get and what I use it for, I almost feel like it's better than a lot of other programs. And that's totally subjective, because a lot of people like, for example, Clip Studio. And Clip Studio is a pretty good program. Don't get me wrong. I think Clip Studio is great for what it is. But there are advantages to all three of the major softwares and disadvantages to all major threes. And like Photoshop isn't designed for animating. I should point that out because it should be kind of obvious by the way it's set up and the fact that I'm not really treating this the way I would treat a normal animation. But the reason I like doing it is because it's quick and easy to do editing. So like, I can just sit here and do 30-second edits without really having to worry about the strain that goes into like fixing all of the individual timing nodes. As an example. And like, look how fast it is to select things that I think I need to get rid of. In this case, I'm just getting rid of some like excess weight, you could say, because the image has to look like it flows through. And if everything is kind of bulky looking, then it doesn't look like it's moving in 3 dimensions. I know this is kind of a boring conversation. Don't worry. Part of this is because this is recording, and I think it would be cool to have this information in some kind of video. I'll be doing this for a while. I'll check on my Twitter peeps in a minute and see what's going on over there. Because I haven't checked. This is what I mean when I say it can be a little messy and it's not a big deal. Get rid of that frame. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. As long as it conveys what my point was, then that's all that really matters in this kind of conversation. Every time I do a significant change on this, I have to go in and export it manually, which is the only downside to this. Oh, I'm missing a frame in there. Let's go right about there. I might have to go back and manually do some tweaks. I mean, I appreciate that. I love doing my job. And I love doing it for the people that I enjoy hanging out with, you know? Now he's becoming more in the foreground. Oh no, I did it again. I forgot to remove the soup case. I have this prop soup case that's in the background that was being used earlier in the footage. And I forgot to get rid of it. I can't delete the prop though, because if I delete the prop, there we go. Let's see. Let's give it a quick test drive by exporting. And then I'll show you a sample of my demo reel. That'll take a minute. Now, I'm gonna warn you right now, I am like a storyboarder. I'm not an audio editor. So, like, the audio that you're gonna be hearing in a minute, like, it is terribly set up. And I'm saying this because you're probably listening to this on headphones, and when I applied for the application for this, I was very clear in telling them that you need to listen to this without headphones, because it will blow out your ears otherwise, because I'm not trained to know how to sync the leveling. I learned in college, but I was never good at it. So I don't know if the audio is going to go through properly, because most of these clips have audio. But if it does go through properly, then it's worth, like, just keeping that in mind. Okay, everybody? Let me make sure the speaker is good. Mic, Yeti, desktop audio. I'm going to mute myself while this is playing, but it's not a very long clip because the demo reel is never supposed to be more than a minute. So most of this is just stuff I did back in college. There's a few, like, new clips in here, but these are mostly old, like, college clips. Alright, let's give it a shot. It's a very short demo reel. I'll replay it again, but like I said, most of it doesn't have sound. I picked the best clips that I could. I'm not sure why the one doesn't have sound though, because it should. This one should have sound. Did I... This one here is a jumping sequence that had a patoo sound at the end. I might have to retime that. That's kind of upsetting. The whole sequence, the whole short had its own set of audio, and there were some sequences that I liked better than others. And I don't know if you noticed, I love squash and stretch. It's kind of like my signature thing. There's this sequence in, this fella's name is Drakel. He's like this little, I call him my trash iguana. He is like literally an iguana that has like animatronic parts. He's pre-Starlin as far as like character design goes, but he has this cute little leap. That's like my favorite piece of the whole animation. If I zoom in on this, you'll see why. Let me just... I'll have to reset the footage after, but that's okay. It's like my favorite sequence that like I've done so far. So if I just... Like, this is just the cutest thing. Because you can see his expressions and everything. It's a very rough animation. I did this one. This particular animatic was done in about 2 days because it was due for my college project. That's why some of it looks better than others, but like this is what storyboarding is. I probably still have the panel for that. If you can't tell, because it does have a tendency to like... He does this cute little like hiss face. He's like a little baby. Little baby face. I'll see if I can zoom in more, but I doubt it'll get clearer. Yes, he's like a little hiss face. It's like my favorite piece of animation, because he's just like... Unfortunately, because it's zoomed in so much, I think it's distorted the image. I should reinsert that in my next version, but... Can I just reset the scales? I'm trying to reset everything. There. He is, I used to ship him with another character of mine, who I don't think is in these clips, but he was my first year character, and his name was Filbert, and he was like this little... He was also a little gremlin, but in the literal sense, because he was very short. And compromised with his hair, but he's also an electrician and loved to fiddle with things. But the whole idea of this second year project was, and that's this project that Drakel is in, is that we were supposed to combine him with a Canadian hero to do a PSA. Now, I love PSAs to death. They are the love of my life. I could literally start a whole channel on just PSAs, but that's so much editing. I couldn't think of a PSA that I wanted to talk about, though, because there's so many subjects within them that are just so fascinating to me. So, when I created Drakel, it ended up being this short little burst about loving the beauty in everything, and it's the cheesiest little storyline. But I didn't have a lot of time to think it through, and I put much more thought into Drakel's design, which I can probably pull up if I look. But I'll see if I can pull it up on my Instagram. I love Drakel to pieces. I might even have some of his old art on my computer. Give me a minute. He's such an interesting character to me. Because he has a 3D model that exists, but said 3D model is not very good. And I got around to building elements because the whole program was for 3D, but I am not a 3D sculptor. I can do 3D builds. Like, I can make them. I made this. This was, I guess, okay. I didn't finish it. You know, I can make 3D models. I am the 2D person, but I can make 3D stuff. You know, like, see, like whoops, that's not it. It's not what I wanted to pull up. Way to glitch on me. Like, for example, I made this little dining table set. This is kind of cool, I guess. I had this in my demo reel too, not because I made this a storyboard, but because, like, sometimes they like to see the progress of what you build. And this was one of those cases. So I threw this together for one of my class projects. It wasn't anything spectacular. I like to build tables for reasons that bewilder me. That's the final render. As you can see, the paint job isn't the best, but I ran out of time. Cute little elephant teapot, which I have a separate model build for. That's in here. I really love building tables. There's an excessive amount of tables in my demo reel. Here's another table. There's like 9 or 10 tables. It's really quite sad, the number of tables that I've made. This one was cool because it had a physics engine, and this was done in a program called 3D Coat, which has some incredible physics to it. I love the patterning on this one, even though it's also a bit rushed. Some other people in my class did some amazing stuff, but this one personally did pretty well in my opinion. It has a paint job in here somewhere. This is a building. Initially, when I was going to do the short film, it was going to be in 3D because I thought it would save me time and effort, but it didn't. I gave up on doing it in 3D. Here's the final render of the table. It's a little fast, but that's okay. A little too glossy too, but I don't think I could ever fix that because I'm not the person for that. I'm not going to show you the beauty that is the failed attempt at making a 3D placemat for Drakel, but I will show you some of the other stuff that we did. I didn't finish Drakel's final 3D animation because I can't rig. That is my biggest weakness, is I'm not someone who knows how to rig anything. I tried all 3 years. I can rig in 2D, but for whatever reason, 3D rigging just absolutely hates me. So I didn't make one properly. The textures were all nice. Like, the textures were nice. But like, look at this. Like, the textures look okay. I didn't build this model, but you can tell I have no idea what I'm doing. He looks so ugly. My poor baby. I'm not a 3D artist. This is why I don't do 3D things. I tried learning afterward. I can sculpt, I can't rig. A little table. Anyway, my point was that Drakel should have had audio in there, and I don't know why. I don't know why there's no proper sound for the one that I did for Felix, which is this one. Felix was my, he would have been my first year film, I think. And his whole thing is he is a performer that is overly egotistical. I have so much art of Felix that it is baffling that no one stopped me. Can I find all my old art of Felix is the question. because I drew so much of him. Because the thing with Felix is he was designed to be as egotistical as possible, so naturally that meant I had to name him after Felix the cat, because, you know, naturally, that's just what you do. Might be in this twisted desktop download 20. Felix's design is cute, and I want to go back and kind of rework on it. But I haven't had the chance yet. Downloads. Might be on my other computer. Because for some reason I'm not seeing my baby bean. You can kind of see him here. He's very, eccentric isn't the word I want to use, but that kind of best describes him. And there's a cute little sequence, and if I can drag my footage out enough, I'll show you, of him kind of doing his thing. You know what? Screw it. I will click and drop the old version. Where is it? Really, it was strange to me because Felix was the thing that got me hired. They liked Drakel's stuff. They liked that I could play with angles, but the expression that I could get off of Felix, despite his animation being the worst out of the bunch of them, was really what got me hired by all the studios I've worked with. Okay, this is another warning you about my bad audio skills. This one is the worst for it. And I'm warning you right now, if I play this, and if we choose to play this, you need to take off your headphones and listen to it through a speaker. Okay? I don't even know what's going on the Twitter side of things. I might just switch it to people over on Twitter. Okay, I have 0 views. Okay, for those of you who watch this Twitter stream, I'm going to switch to Twitch because the audio on this is absolutely horrible. So you can come join me over on Sketchframe Studio at Twitch, and we'll hang out over there. It is loud. It's going to be really loud. And it's not like explosions loud. It's like I can't audio edit loud. Let me know when you're ready, because it's going to be bad. Like I said, I can't audio edit to save the life of me. I try, and I try, but, you know, I had 45 seconds to edit, something like that, maybe 20 seconds on this one, and it really backfired. There were lots of clips I could have used from Felix that were outstanding, but ultimately, Alright, just let me know when you're... Okay, you ready? Alright, I'm gonna warn you. Like I said, this was, the one that did the worst on my, like, actual scores, but people seem to enjoy the most.
Welcome to my show!
Incredible!
And now, try out.
Like what?
A little cartwheel. Even you can do that.
I'll do my best.
Not bad.
Other tests then?
You're thinking back.
That squeak is the favorite thing of mine that I've ever done. I really wish I had the skills then that I had now to really push that pose. I thought about going over and doing it again.
Trampoline. I'll be darned. Not bad, actually.
Thank you, Felix.
This is our show, Becky.
And pan out. Like I said, I can't edit to save the life of me. Hi to the person on Twitch who's watching. There was some good stuff in here. I could definitely talk about the stuff that I did well as a whole. You know, the posings were strong. You could tell I rushed areas though. Yeah, I focus on pose and gesture in a lot of my stuff. I love angles. You can see the sassiness. It's loud on my end. And maybe it's because they're my headphones. I don't know. But... Hold on, I gotta cough. That being said, like, there's some strong stuff in here. And this set did get it did end up in 3D, but again, I'm not a 3D person. You can see I even did the first section of it was done by hand and transitions to the more, well, I won't say traditional. I did the entire boards by hand because I had to, and then I digitally redid them, so things looked really choppy. These expressions and poses were strong, and Felix was intended to be that way. But you could tell that there's definitely some issues preceding it, and that's why it surprised me so much that the simple clip that I showed of him jumping was really what got me hired. And I'm assuming it's because of this incredible squash and stretch. And I know that sounds like I'm being snobby, but I did a lot of work in that squash and stretch to time it just right. There's not a lot of trucking or anything in my stuff because I don't like to do trucks because I have to do them manually. I will do trucks in a board if I am required to do trucks in a board. If I can find a workaround, I will find a workaround. Those are pretty. That's the thing about storyboarding, though. You try to find shortcuts because you know it'll be hard on the animators. And I knew this sequence would be hard on me because I was the animator. But it ultimately worked out for me. So, I guess I'm glad that I did it, but I'm also like, oof-a-roni. I wish I kind of made the animations more clear. But this is the level that's expected out of a new boarder. So... I'm gonna sneeze, hold on. Bear with me. I sneezed like 8 times consecutively. Sorry, I had to pause my audio so that it wouldn't go through. Yeah, so when I created these shorts, I didn't expect them to actually get me anywhere. Because, like, let's be honest, when you think of a storyboarder presently, you probably think of people who do super fancy, super clean boards. I know for me, when I first started getting into the industry, I thought that I would have to do to the level of what the SpongeBob storyboarders do. Because, like, yes, SpongeBob is primarily a geometric based show, but the sheer amount of, like, detailing on their boards is the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And it's not the only show like that, but it is the one that is the most open about it when it's trying to do it for promotional purposes. Because, like, we're talking a show that's been running 25 years and saw the transition from paper storyboard to digital storyboard to Photoshop to, Toon Boom Harmony Storyboard Pro. And it's a long, hard transition on the people involved. And I like seeing the evolution of it. But it's always frightening when you're first coming into the industry because you look up to certain people. One of the people I looked up to beyond the people who did the storyboards of SpongeBob was Kiara Ritter, or Kate Ritter. I'm not sure if she pronounces the I in her name or not. One of the shows I looked up to a lot, well, there were 4, but during my time in college, is definitely Tangled the series because it does something unique with its boards that I didn't expect it to ever do, which is that it has an individual character artist that does certain characters for the different parts of the board. And that's not the case for every character, but for the primary ones, yeah, they have specialists. And that is, like, incredibly interesting to me that those are the ones that are responsible for the main characters. So I saw her work, and I still follow her work on Instagram. But she's a major inspiration to me, and I love everything she does. I don't know if I can, like, show her stuff here, because technically, I guess I could show it, but I'm not sure if I'm allowed to. So maybe I'll just send it separately. But everybody who's, like, listening, if you want to be a storyboard artist, remember, it's not about things looking pretty. It's about clarity and making sure you read the ability to read your character properly. So, like, yeah, these are like kind of rough looking. They're kind of ugly looking. But you can tell every gesture in its intent. And at the end of the day, that played more of a role in getting me a job than the pretty artwork that I do. The board I'm doing right now, the reason this is so clean is because these are characters that are distinctly built to have multiple sets of, I shouldn't say multiple limbs, but abnormalities for their limbs. You know, I've got cat ears, I've got a tail. Drips is meant to have more hind legs that resemble a quadruped for test purposes. And as a result, I have to be a bit more careful when I create those boards to make sure that the actual, like, intent is there. But as far as I'm concerned, these are still very rough. Yeah, so you can kind of see like the poses here have evolved beyond what they were originally. Like the transition from my ability to do regular storyboards to what I do now has been incredible because of the support system I've had and the people teaching me as I'm in these studios. It's pretty incredible. And I truly do believe that if we as a community work together, um, both in studio and as general public people, I think that it will go a long way in helping people kind of understand the industry a bit better because we're going through a lot of changes. And it's important that as we transition through these changes, that we make the public aware of what is actually expected of us. And what's expected of us is not to be able to audio edit, but because I did this for a school assignment, I had to warn people regardless, which is why the clip I'm working on now has no audio. I'm gonna try to finish this up. I know we had one potential person who was thinking about coming in, but I'm not sure. Well, thank you. I really like talking about my industry, and it makes me sound a little egotistical at times, but it's not because it's not because of me. It's because the industry is actually far more interesting than people give it credit for. I could literally go on for hours and hours about, like, just why I chose this field. Because initially, I only wanted to be an animator. I probably mentioned it before, but if not, the show that got me interested in animating is actually a show called Phineas and Ferb. I know, big shock, kid from the late 90s who grew up on early 2000s television, fell in love with the corny geometric sitcom that was not really intended to be anything great, but ended up being great anyway. The thing is that Dan Pulvermeyer and Marshy Swamp are like incredible writers, and nobody gives them credit for that. Because the thing with that show is it's meant to be both episodic and grandiose at the same time, not just in terms of like the plot lines, but it subverts its own expectations halfway through season 1 and it doesn't stop. And there's little individual bits and pieces of clever writing, clever animation, clever storytelling, and just a real feeling that this show really tried its best in a changing landscape to be something that it couldn't have been in any other time. We would transition at the end of Phineas and Ferb from the era of episodic shows that have good storylines to shows that were kind of teetering between episodic and overarching stories. And it's kind of an interesting situation because it's contemporary. I don't think the word contemporary is the right word, but its sister show at the time being Milo's Murphy Law, which is also incredible. I love the first season of Milo's Murphy. I think it gets a little sidetracked in season 2, but I think that's just because Disney was pushing for more Phineas and Ferb content and they didn't want to work on Phineas and Ferb. So they just brought Doofenshmirtz in for the sake of it. But that's the interesting thing about this, right? Hold on, I just got a text message. So, like, it's interesting. I've been following Dan Pulvermeyer and Marshy Swamp's work for, like, the better part of 2-3 decades now. And I wasn't aware that both of them had, like, roots in both Rocko's Modern Life and the original first batch of Simpsons episodes. And I believe it was Dan who worked on Cape Fear, the parody of Cape Fear. And he was the costume designer on that. Which, can I just talk about how incredible it is to get a position as, like, a costume designer on a show like The Simpsons? Because The Simpsons very rarely does costume changes. When it does, it's for a very important event. And that particular event was what would cement Sideshow Bob as one of the key reoccurring characters of the series. He had been in, I think, 3 episodes prior to that, but Cape Fear is the Sideshow Bob episode in a lot of people's opinions. Maybe also Black Widower. I don't know if people consider that. Artistically, that's a fantastic episode, but I don't know if that's the one people would consider the episode that cemented him. But what's so interesting about that is there's not a lot of costume change as a whole in that particular episode, only on Bob, which, when you think, and I don't think people take credit enough for this, the thing is that Sideshow Bob, according to Matt Groening, was designed after a palm tree. Pretty self-explanatory. But what's interesting is I don't think people realized how much Sideshow Bob's appearance inadvertently tied back to Phineas's appearance, and that's something that I think goes over a lot of people's heads. there's a lot of characters in that show that have that hairstyle because it's a reference to his previous work. And then on the other side of that, you got Rocko's Modern Life, which you can see the influence of that show on shows that would end up coming out. Because, you have that, from that show, you have about 6 other shows which directly fell inspiration to. SpongeBob, I believe, was one of them. I think they were parodying that more than they were The Simpsons and Family Guy at the time. Like, early Family Guy, obviously. Let's see what other shows kind of took that influence under their belt and ran with it. There were like 3 of them. I know the big 2 ones are SpongeBob and Phineas and Ferb took that influence. I believe maybe the Fairly Odd Parents kind of did that too. Yeah, I almost forgot completely about Camp Lazlo. And then I guess if you want to consider something that branches off as well, I can't say for certain that Ed, Edd, and Eddy is inspired by Rocko's Modern Life. But what I can say is that it very clearly has stylistic influences from it. And whether or not that's intentional or not, I'm not sure. Because the history of Ed, Edd, and Eddy as a show is bizarre. It was literally created as a bet. And I don't think there's any other show that could really hold that title and have the accreditation that it does. One momento. I'm trying to think of other shows. Some people would say subjectively maybe Foster's was inspired by that, but because it's Lauren Faust, I have a feeling her husband had more influence in that role than Rocko did. And that's kind of an interesting thing to think about because in each generation of creators and showrunners, there's one that clearly inspired the ones that would precede it, but within its own bubble, it's hard to say what started what, It's just an interesting culture when you get down to it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting when you get down to it. A lot of showrunners end up inspiring each other, and it seems to be pocketed within eras. So like the people who Alex Hirsch inspired now have shows of their own, for example. I don't know how true that is. I know Alex Hirsch has 2 shows under his belt now. Both are spectacular, but the freedom of Netflix has allowed him a new opportunity that I don't think he would have had otherwise. And that is that he can truly be serialized instead of episodic. And I still feel that he has some of his episodic tendencies, but I think that's not a bad thing. It's just good that he doesn't have to force an episode of the week anymore. That it can tie into everything else. And with that comes the incredible fact that, like, he's not the only showrunner that's having that transition. I never thought I'd say it, but the creator of Rick and Morty has an actually fantastic secondary series running right now, which is part of why it takes so long for episodes to come out. Also, they're just really picky about their writing system, and that's okay. Sometimes you gotta be. But if you haven't had the chance yet, I highly suggest, I think it's on Hulu and maybe Netflix, but Hulu for certain, go check out Solar Opposites. It is that crew at their best. It feels like they finally have ironed out the issues that occurred as a result of Rick and Morty kind of being stale after a while, and the toxicity of the fandom. It feels like all of that is gone in favor of an actually good storyline. And it's not like it's a heavy lore series either. That's the interesting thing, is it's comfortable being what it is. Like I said, I could ramble on for ages about this. But there's just some incredible stuff out there that, like, it's a whole world unto itself that I wish got more credit for what it was supposed to be. 'Cause now you see all these super fancy storyboards that are, like, almost fully animated, and it's frustrating everybody. I regret installing the Twitter notification app. It's gonna bother the heck out of me. I'm gonna try to finish these panels, and then I'll show you how I decide to cut together my footage. You can hear my dog barking in the background, I'm sure. He's being a good pupper. He's doing his thing. Okay, so there are 2 more panels after this that have to be accumulated. There is this panel, which I have to resize, which is fine. And then I have to clean up this in the background and maybe add another gestural pose too. It's coming along pretty solid. I'll show you the animation again, because I might grab myself a hot chocolate. put this on loop. This is what it currently looks like, and this is the expectation of most storyboarders. Not necessarily this detailed of a background, but if I'm making a new board. Oh! Bless! Thanks for the donation. Alright. I appreciate that. Yeah, so most storyboarders are never really asked to do anything of this level. I mean, I can't say that. I went from a revisionist who would never really be asked to do more than make sure proportions are in order and timing is correct to being a lead. And that's kind of where this sits at, is this is like what the expectations of a lead might be. No audio, which, you know, it is what it is. Oh, we've got someone new watching. I am going to make sure everything is in working order. Feel free to ask questions about this too, because it must seem a bit like the animation is jerky, even though that's kind of the point, is that the animators would fill this in. You know, they'd be doing the subtle hand gestures and making things that are less pronounced more pronounced. And you can notice he moves forward on the screen as well. Take careful note of his feet. That's why he gets just slightly larger, although I think there's a glitch in there that I need to fix. No, it's not really a glitch. I think it's just timing. And 4. Yeah, so this is kind of like, there are things you can tell. If you're wondering what all these arrows are as well, those are what are called movement arrows, and they help people determine where the exact positioning of things are. I do have to fix the eyes, but I don't know how much I care about the eyes, because it was just intended to help directionally. Ooh, that's a nice hat. We might design a character after this together. I'm not sure. I just want to get this done because I want to add it to it. If you want to see what it looks like so far with the editing, I will hide Felix here. And pull up the segment that it's involved with. Oh no, I hit record. Wasn't my intent, but I guess that's here. I meant to hit mute. Now, it's not my best editing work, but like I'm doing this in a rush, so I'll show you what this small segment looks like, at least so far. Establishing shot, cut closer. I do want to pull that over just a smidge, I think. Or zoom it in at least a little. Because I don't like that I can see his hand. Still visible. One thing people ask me is why don't I just do this like super close up? Why do I fill out the entire section in full body before I do anything? And the reason for that is if I do that, then I risk having to redo shots more than I need to. So this saves me a ton of time for things I don't actually have to redraw, that I might just have to zoom in on. So I will let this play for another second while I go get some hot chocolate, and I will be right back. I'll be like less than 5 minutes though, so we should be back shortly. Feel free to send any questions any of you guys may have, because I see we have more people joining us over on Twitch. And I will be back momentarily. cocoa milk has been achieved. How's everybody doing? Great to hear. We got some visitors over on the Twitch side, so I'm going to open the floor to questions and continue to finish this up because we're pretty close. Today is also the cheapest of the commission days. All art is only 5 USD right now, so if anyone is interested, let me know. I think my Ko-fi link is somewhere. And Ko-fi takes PayPal, debit, and credit cards, so that's partially why I did this, because I wanted to do more doodles. But all in all, I'm just glad to have you guys here. We got a couple of good questions here. So I'll start with the basics. I've attended 3 different schools at this point for animation and 1 general art school. I attended Sheridan College for what's called Art Fundamentals. It was not a great time as far as it's like my least favorite program of the ones I've been to. I then went to a program called APW, or Animation Portfolio Workshop, that is one of the biggest here in Canada, at least in Ontario, and it specifically focuses on training people to get ready to go into other colleges. From there, I ended up getting into Seneca briefly. I left Seneca and I ended up in Mohawk, which is where I graduated from. Seneca was a 2D program. It trained me in Harmony, Photoshop. I think I got a little bit of Flash in there and hand animation. And I learned everything I know about 3D from Mohawk.
Two weeks ago, a cheating scandal caught the
Sorry, I didn't realize my Wendigo video was, or I guess Penguin Zero video was active. That kind of came out of nowhere. Sorry about that. Audio's not out. I'm just kind of waiting on more questions because we've got people answering questions or asking questions, I should say. And I'm also just kind of intently focused on what I'm fixing up here, making sure things are working the way they should. Yeah, I think I can get away with that. Yeah, I can get away with that, I think. I'll show you what I made in a second, because I gotta just add some more frames. It's all good. Sometimes I go a bit quiet in my streams because I'm, like, fixated on what I'm doing. Here's kind of a look on the progress. I think I made his hands a little bigger over time, but I'm willing to compromise on that. Yeah, you can kind of see here how he's going to move as he gets up. I think this is coming along quite well, so I might export in a second to see how it feels overall. Yeah. Let's give that a little itty bitty export and see if it works. I think it just needs a couple extra frames. Oops, I think I zoomed out too much. It's kind of frozen. There we go. Because that'll just mean I gotta do the last one with our main guy. And then we should be done this. And then I'll take requests or commissions. But I'll be on for a while. Now comes the most fun part, me exporting it. It's going to take a minute, so if you need to take a breather, feel free to. Because I literally cannot do anything on my computer until it's resolved. Enjoy the slow render process, because you're going to see a little bar in a minute, and that'll tell you that it's rendering. This could take like anywhere from 30 seconds to 5 minutes. Thank you. I am back. Sorry for the slight delay. How are y'all doing? And I did not mean to be almost 10 minutes there. I went for a second glass of cocoa milk. Not to be confused with cocoa melon, but cocoa milk. Hot chocolate. I'm doing pretty good. I think after watching this a few times, I want to add a few more panels and one more view. But how do you feel about the animation as a whole? As a casual viewer, did you feel that the animation looked readable? Can you tell everything that's going on with the individual characters' body movement and posture? Let that run a couple times. Because I am considering adding 2 more poses and showing you how I rough out backgrounds. Alright, in that case, what I think I'm going to do is have him step 2 more steps forward, but on his front and back paws. Kind of like, I'll rough it out. Kind of have him go like this and bend over and really lean into that more animal posture. I'm going to have one paw down here, one frontal paw, and then the other paw over here. It was very rough, obviously, because he wasn't truly built for this kind of movement. But I'm going to try it anyway. He become horse. If we keep his head up here while he's prepping the movement, then I can have him maybe pull his tail in to hold the bag, which could be fun. Could be fun to have the bag hold in the tail. The tail is quite big, and it was designed to be a little bit more cartoony. So let's see what I can do here. Because, like I said, Drips is inspired by the 1950s. I think I mentioned that in a previous stream. So I can kind of mess around with the anatomy a little and have some fun with it. And you'll see what I mean when I go to play this back in a second. And we'll do cleanup after. I'm just kind of roughing it out. So it's not going to be perfect, but that's okay, because all I want to do is have the bag be grabbed by the tail. So we pull this up a little bit. Add some extra range of motion. You know, I'll have to correct that bit after, but that's okay. Now check out what happens when I go like this. It's not going to be perfect because we just roughed this out pretty quickly, but it should be pretty neato. Yeah, I think I'm going to export this and see how it moves all together once we do some cleanup on it. I will be doing this stream until 11:30, 12-ish, so don't feel like you have to stay if you feel like you're getting really tired. I'm not pushing you out, I'm just saying I'm going to be here a while. No worries at all. I appreciate you being here. And I hope that you enjoyed hanging out. It's been a blast. Plus, it's really great just to have someone here who's willing to hang out. I'm hoping I can get a couple good extra poses in here before I call it quits myself. So I will keep you posted. I'll probably post an update in the server or on my Twitter as far as this actual animation goes and my demo reel. Debating if I want to add sound or anything to it, because I don't know. I feel like I could add sound to it, but I also don't know if it's really worth doing, I guess. I'll figure it out. Let's see if I can get good pose there. His neck floofs are causing me issues, but that's okay. I designed him with the neck floofs in mind. I'm waiting on it to finish exporting. I'll share with you what the progress is looking like in real time. And we'll work from there. I think it's coming along pretty good though. Thank you. It's just me kind of doodling essentially. I very rarely, unless I have a script that I have to do, unless I have a script, I rarely do anything more than just what's called straight handing or roughing out poses without really thinking about where they're gonna go ahead of time, and that's why things kind of look like they almost look more natural. It is a method, but it's not as common of one. So I quite enjoy it. It allows me more flexibility with how I draw. Well, thank you. Right now, I'm just trying to get the shape that I want for what will become a proper animal shaped walk cycle. This is where things get a little bit weird to look at, so you're gonna have to bear with me. Because now his hip is gonna tip forward more to compensate for the fact that he's gonna be walking a bit like a horse in a second. I just have to get the right posture in place. It's tricky because, like I said, he wasn't really designed. He was designed for both quadrupedal and bipedal movement. So it should be easy enough to get him into the base position. It's just a matter of making sure he actually looks okay in said position. It's going to take an itty bitty bit of fiddling. Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm not looking for perfection on the rough. I just want to indicate that he is going to be moving more quadrupedically. Then I can always fix the anatomy after. Why I'm doing this is a good question, but I don't have an answer other than I felt like it. I don't want to say it's going to be a horse movement. It's going to be more akin to how a cat moves because he's a cat. But the point stands. And no, he doesn't have a neck, so it's going to look a little weird. I'll do another render export so you can see what I mean by it's going to look weird. Note how he's gotten slightly bigger over time because he's moving more towards where the actual front of the camera is. It's not too bad. This is version 14. There we go. Loop. Alright. Let's take... Oh yeah, absolutely. You have a great night. Thank you for hanging out. I'm just exporting things at this point to see how they look. It's a tedious, endless task to try to constantly export things. I'm glad that you managed to come and hang out for the night. I appreciate you being here. I think I might actually just end the stream. I'm getting a bit tired. But it's been great having you here.